Welcome to Charts Today. My name is David Linton, and today's edition for Monday, the 5th of August, comes to you from London. And what a week it has been. I've been yacht racing in Cows Week in the UK all of the last week. And of course, Friday, we saw a lot of turmoil in markets, and that's carried forward into today, into Asia. So let's just take a look at the charts. Remember, all the news you're hearing is all reflected already in the charts. And we can talk about why things are happening, but the reality is it's what's happening on the charts that really counts. Now, remember here, I'm running on LSEG Icon, the new system from Icon, but I could be easily running on any other feed, Bloomberg, Trayport, whatever you want. So Update is compatible with 30 different feeds, and I'll look at the energy mix towards the end of this recording, but the key thing is just to look at what's going on across markets. So we'll look at currencies first, then stock indices, some commodities, and then last of all, energy. We'll maybe have a look at the tech stocks as well. It's been a big meltdown there. But we're seeing here, remembering this is the key thing, this lower high, lower low, that was happening in the dollar last month. And that is really the signs, the first signs. This is on the daily chart. This is my medium-term chart. My short-term chart is the 60-minute chart. And we also have a weekly chart here where we can see what's going on in the long term. That's all about time horizon. So medium-term and short-term, that's what we're looking at the moment. We're below the cloud, that's bearish. And we saw here that lower high, lower low, Dow theory, the classic ingredients for a fall away. Price target was given. There's nothing magic about these targets. They were invented over 70 years ago. Abe Cohen came up with them on point and figure charts. We've applied them here to line charts. Here's the price target, and there's the resultant move. The target is met, and you can't ignore the target. So that was there. So that's what's happening with the dollar index. So it's bearish on both charts. People will tell you that's because of the non-farm payrolls on Friday. Federal Reserve is now likely to cut. Are we in risk of recession in the US? All of those things you're going to read about. But this is the reality: is that target was given well before all of that news was coming out. So the news follows the price. You just cannot ignore that. As we're seeing here, the euro jumping on the result of that. And of course, the big story in currencies has been the yen. And we had this massive move on the yen from really 160s to 140s, a really huge move, strengthening of the yen. And that really has been going on for the last couple of weeks. And we see here we've still got potentially further to come. So that's certainly a high that we're going to see in the yen. And again, if I want to look at the long-term chart, we're starting to see now the weekly cloud. That's going to be really, really quite key. This target now off the card. So you can't rely on the targets always being met. You've got to track them. That's the beauty of having them on time-based charts. You can see how the target's been fulfilled. Looking at sterling, this is a really big move as well for the dollar. Sitting here in the 120s. And if we look at Bitcoin, down 9%. So really falling away there. A lot of turmoil in a lot of these asset classes. If you look at something like the Aussie dollar against sterling, really just this huge upside target given, and that big move just nudging $2 to sterling for the Aussie. So they're really quite key. Now, first of all, look at the Nasdaq. This is the cash market. We'll look at the futures in a minute. Downside target was given. And the key question is, how low will we go? Well, we've got a downside target to 14% lower. We're not through the cloud yet on the daily. And then we've got some shorter term targets on the 60-minute chart. We look at those there. There's the 60-minute chart. Downside targets taking us to the end of August, some 5% lower, 7% lower. So let's say around 6% lower, two targets. That increases the likelihood, by the way, that we've got two targets there. So that's really quite key. Looking at the S&P 500, down 2% on the future this morning. And again, downside target was given back on the 2nd of August. So that was given on Friday. And that's where we started to fall away to on Friday, and we've still got further to fall there. So again, you just can't ignore the targets. Model downside targets there on the 60-minute chart, just kicking in all the time. These occur in real time, and of course you can watch them on your shorter term charts, 10-minute, 1 minute, whatever. So the Nasdaq future is down 3.4%, and again, downside targets given and met. So here we see the downside targets given, downside target given. That was given on the 25th of July. to happen on the 5th of August. We've gone a little bit past that this morning. So you really cannot ignore the fact that the targets are there. And of course, European markets following suit. If I look at the DAX, it's down 2%. No big surprises there. Again, downside targets on the 60-minute chart met quicker than they were given. So that's really quite key. We saw Japan. I mean, this is a really big move, massive move. Again, the downside target was there a few days ago and met. And so we're really seeing really big capitulation in some of these markets now, so really quite key. China has actually fared a little bit better, just down 1.5%, so not as serious, but the downside targets are in place. Again, they cannot be ignored. The Sensex, one of the stronger looking markets on the long term, is off 2.5%, so it has fared better than Western markets. If we look at the weekly chart, still following the track up to that target, the other targets there met. So really quite key, the long-term picture not changed at all there. We'll look at the energy mix in a minute. In fact, just a quick look at Oz. That's been affected down 3.7%. Downside target there as well. Big move through the cloud. Really no avoiding what's going on. Looking at gold, gold's actually long-term, of course, looking bullish. But if we look at the short-term chart, upside target was given back on the 29th of July. This is a 60-minute chart. Met. New downside target given. You just can't ignore the target, so keep an eye on those targets. And then last of all, a really big one here is actually US 10-year yields. That's, of course, looking very bearish now with a spectre of interest rate cuts. So really big moves there. And again, on the 60-minute chart, you'll notice all these resistance levels just all the way down. And just to fall away, that target met quicker. Now the market on those non-farms payrolls numbers expecting big falls. And we've seen big falls on tech, Apple, lots of news on that, of course, with Buffett. We're seeing Amazon, downside target there, met and exceeded, so really quite key. A quick look at the energy mix. Brent Crude, first of all, we're seeing here another downside target. Of course, we did our morning call, which calls for energy we called today and the week ahead. And we've got this downside target, so we were bearish there. US NatGas back below the $2 level, really quite convincingly last week. Downside targets there as well on the 60-minute, really can't ignore. And of course, if you want to go to the 1 minute and you're trading these things, you'll have targets for the 1 minute chart. This is just today, so really quite key there. Looking at emissions, down this morning, down 3%. So again, really quite interesting. We were moving to this high. The target nearly met there. Still struggling on the daily cloud. Fall back to the 60-minute cloud. A bit of a mixed picture there, but pretty bearish. And if we look at TTF, again, gas markets have had a very good run last week or two, and we're just seeing now that fall away. And again, on the 60-minute chart, on the 1 minute chart, we were bearish this morning. Downside targets on the 1 minute, you just can't ignore those. So that was our bearish call on gas. We put that out every morning. And if we look at German power, last of all, we see here that we've got this upside targets looking quite strong on the 60-minute, but again on the shorter term charts, here we're looking at the 10-minute. We see these downside targets given and met, so really quite key there. So the energy mix looking pretty bearish today, but of course markets generally in a state of turmoil, like 12% in Tokyo, really quite key there. So keep an eye on what's going on here. Watch your shorter term targets for the 1 minute charts, the 10-minute charts. That's what's going to really count. That's it for today. Fasten your seatbelts and hang in there. Until next time, happy charting. Bye for now.